I need to understand what I'm doing correctly and what I could be doing better at. And if nobody tells me, there's no way I'm going to get better at what I'm doing.
After all, I think we're all a work in progress, and feedback is the greatest gift that we can give to one another.
It needs to be the key cornerstone of our whole engagement process as we look at how we nurture and how we develop people here at Blue Wolf.
Hey PAX, welcome to this module about receiving feedback. There are a total of 3 modules, providing, requesting, and receiving, all 15 minutes each, and we're going to focus now on receiving feedback. I have myself, Neelu Kaur, talent coach, Jen Franco, the other talent coach,
Hi there.
and Raja Mirzog.
Hey there.
So feedback is really so important to our culture at Blue Wolf. We realize that all of us from top leadership all the way through the organization have a huge opportunity to grow leaps and bounds by receiving and providing valuable feedback. We also realize that it's really hard to request and provide feedback to someone you work with. So we want to make sure that we give you tips, tricks, and best practices for receiving feedback. So how do we actually receive feedback? There's 10 ways that we've come up with that can help you to receive feedback. And the first is to know your tendencies. Do you typically get defensive? Do you typically deny what you've just heard? Knowing your tendencies before receiving the information can help you process and digest a little better. Really want to separate the what from the who. If the feedback is accurate, it shouldn't matter who delivers it, but it often does.
So, Neelu, that one's a tough one. Separate the what from
is.
the who. How do you do that? I mean, it's for me, it's just, I think that some people's opinions matter to me. Oh, this sounds terrible, but matter to me a lot more. Some people, depending on who they are and what I think their intentions are toward me, I think differently about their feedback. So that's a really tough one.
I think, if you think about it from the perspective of people generally won't invest the time to give you feedback unless they really care about you and they want you to be successful at Blue Wolf. So even if it's a little painful to hear, the fact that they're taking time out to give you feedback really means that they want you to grow.
Oh, I love that perspective. Okay, thanks.
Sure. The third thing is to seek out coaching versus evaluation. Some feedback is evaluative and some is coaching. We need both, but coaching tells us how we can improve, and coaching helps us to improve. So don't get stuck on the evaluation and don't get stuck, period. But don't get stuck on the evaluation and really think about sort of the coaching aspect and how this can help you to continuously learn and grow at Blue Wolf. The other thing to keep in mind is not to wait for a formal review. Ask for bite-sized pieces of coaching and feedback from a variety of people throughout the year. Make yourself sort of a work in progress so that you're constantly improving, constantly thinking and wanting to receive feedback. Probe for specificity. It will help you a great deal if you actually have specific, tangible things that you can work on versus general feedback. Accept that perception is reality. So experience suggests that the most productive approach to handle feedback is to assume that the perception others have of you is real. But it really is real to them. It may not be real to you, but accept that the perception is the reality, at least to those that are delivering the message to you.
Whoa,
That's a big one.
I guess that's why it's in white.
So that's tough. And a little bit to your point earlier, Raj, is just whenever you're receiving feedback from someone and it's just a completely different perception of what you had altogether, and taking that in and instead of just like immediately dismissing it. I mean, that's a tough one.
Yes, it absolutely is.
But I think, I guess if I'm thinking it through, it makes sense that would become like, that just helps me become more aware, right, of what I'm thinking as I'm going through it, right? So now that that's been called out for me to pay attention to, and, just sort of accepting the fact that what I'm reading is truly that person's perception, and it's something I could take into serious consideration, or should at least, although, well, it's something that I should take into serious consideration because I can't see everything, right? It's impossible for me to know and understand everything that everyone is perceiving about maybe a deliverable or a presentation that I'm giving. I don't know. Raj, is that resonating with you at all?
I mean, this is one that I struggle with, probably because I struggle with number 2 as well. But I do think that, Nilu, what you said to me before about number 2, which is that people wouldn't take the time unless they cared and cared about me and cared about my development at Bluewolf. To that end, those people caring about me means that I can suspend whatever disbelief I have in my head to say that's their perception, and that for now, that has to be the reality, and sort of give it the credit that's due. I think that concept really helps me, Nilu.
Oh, good. The other thing to keep in mind is to put it in context. What is a summary message to you? Is it mostly on target or not? So really think about the feedback that you're receiving in the context that you're receiving it. And you want to really...
I like that.
Oh.
I really like that one. I really like that one. Being able to kind of just digest it, right? And
absolutely.
Yeah, find the value in it that I feel like really is something that I can use to improve upon.
I actually think that connects to an idea that you brought up, Jen, and I'm not sure when you brought it up, but it's something that I truly believe that you have an opportunity to learn from, any experience and everyone, and you have to take experiences and people as like learning opportunities. So I think that's a really great way of thinking about it too.
All right, and you want to identify what you'll do. What action will you actually take? We don't want to just take this information or this knowledge that we've just received and file it somewhere and forget about it. We want to find ways to measure our progress. So maybe check back, create goals that are aligned with the feedback so that you can actually check your progress over time.
Hey, Nilu, are there any resources to help, either work on identifying those action steps or identifying the goal or even just to stay accountable?
Jen can actually talk to you about My Wolf and entering goals within My Wolf and how to measure the progress of those goals.
Oh, that's right. I remember you can actually invite people to your goals and stay on track. All right, thanks for that.
And most importantly, you want to thank the person who is giving you the feedback, sincerely and genuinely thanking them because they do really care about your development and your progress. Otherwise, they wouldn't take any time out of their schedule to give you that feedback. So remember that feedback is truly a gift. So with receiving feedback, there's always an emotional component. And we found this model called SARA, surprise and shock, anger and anxiety, reject and rationalize, and acceptance. And so it's important to just know where you fall on this spectrum before you actually accept the feedback. It's not necessarily here, we're not necessarily saying that you have to have one before you can get to acceptance. You may fluctuate between the S, the A, and the R, but just knowing and having the awareness of your initial response to receiving feedback will help you accept and digest that feedback. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense to me, Nilu. I think, if I'm being honest with myself, I probably start in the first A, anger and anxiety. I love these faces, by the way.
They're cute.
Me too. Yeah, I would like to think that I don't. I probably do immediately jump to. I guess it depends on the feedback, but I probably immediately jump to the maybe anger, anxiety part. But I can definitely see where getting some feedback might be a surprise, right? So I might start there. I wonder, are these in order?
Not necessarily. So again, remember when we talked about it earlier, we should know our initial response. So like Raja was saying, if the initial response is anger and anxiety, just knowing that that's your go-to. And so what would it look like if the next time you receive feedback, you don't respond with anger and anxiety? What if it's a little bit more surprising and shocking? So I think this picture, this pictorial representation is really more around sort of knowing that there's different aspects to receiving feedback, and not every instance is going to be the same. Not every piece of feedback you're going to receive is going to elicit the same response. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
So that's about it for receiving feedback. Just, again, to highlight the 5 best practices or tips. Be specific as possible. Focus on the specific action versus general. Focus on behaviors or actions versus the opinion or the person. Use the Wins, Learns, Change model to provide or request feedback. Provide or request feedback as often and as timely as you can, and always remember that feedback is truly a gift. And this concludes receiving feedback. Stay tuned for the other modules, and at the very end, we'll give you more information on who to contact if you have additional questions. Thank you.